All right. Anyways, we're right on time, so you can take it away, Nine, with your Kickstarter.
Woo! All right. So, anyway, I am super glad to be back for this VNCon. This has been a crazy crowd. I I'm here to talk to you today about the Kickstarter we ran. We're making a project called When the Shutter Stops. We ran a Kickstarter um, back in October, throughout September and October. And but first, I did want to introduce myself. Not everyone here knows me. I'm Nye. I'm from Remort Studios. I love visual novels. I'm the DevTalk community leader, and I'm a marketing and business enthusiast. I love this stuff. I'm primarily the writer and programmer from Remort Studios, but I do kind of a lot there. Most of you probably know me through Lemon Chan or through DevTalk. So if you've ever seen her retweet you something that you've done, it's usually one of my bots running around doing that and promoting people across. If you're interested in getting that ongoing connection throughout the year, you're welcome to follow her and use these tags, and you'll get her attention pretty quick. Now, so that said, our beliefs and my beliefs personally, visual novels are pretty awesome, and they can and should be better. And in order to make them better, you really have to have the patience and humility for self-reflection. I believe that commercial success is possible for all of us, and it's very rarely an accident. And even if it does happen unintentionally for some people, there's always something to learn from it. And I believe VNCon and honestly anything like this is a very great idea, because ultimately we're all very small fish in a pretty large pond, and we all work better when we swim together. So I should have put a little Nemo meme. By the way, Papyra, I just want to give a shout out to her or him. Sorry, I always forget, for this great little Lemon Chan here. So anyway, I want to jump right into it. I don't have a lot of time, and I've got a lot to go over. There's going to be a lot of words throughout my slides, so I'm sorry for that. So we are working, like I said, on something called When the Shutter Stops. We ran a campaign between September and October. Our goal was $10K. We had an advertising budget of about $300. Our pre-campaigning started in about July, and we wound up with about 7.7K across 200 pretty phenomenal backers. Some of you are actually here. Thank you for coming, by the way. If you have my slides, I think I gave some of them out earlier on. You guys can click here to grab it. And if you don't have the slides, if someone could post it in the chat, I would appreciate it if you have a link to my Kickstarter. Miko, I think you're in there. If you could do that for me, it'd be great. Anyway, our high-level strategy approach in Kickstarter, this is something that everyone wants to have and wants to do. So obviously, we want to make a great product. We really wanted to tackle rewards as best we could. So we loaded our best value at affordable and modest tiers for everyone. We needed to get ourselves out there, which is another pretty challenging aspect. So we had to identify audience clusters and press that could help us get out there. And obviously, you want to approach them cordially and with the goal of mutual benefit. Obviously, if you're making something that's good and that's a good product, they'll be interested in it, and that helps you. For the things that we couldn't reach, we went out with advertisements. And I know that's a bad word to a lot of you, but have some faith in them, because they do help you get around. And the last two parts of our strategy is that we put our best foot forward by making a compelling trailer, our best CGs, and all of the features that we had for our visual novel up front. And we pre-campaigned before, like I mentioned, we started in July, and we didn't want to launch our Kickstarter until we knew we had at least 25% of our goal committed through our conversations prior to that. So now all these sound pretty good. So I'm going to go over what went right first, and then I'm going to go into what went wrong. So first off, our putting the value in the modest tiers worked out extremely well. Most of the people that elected digital tiers in our rewards wound up going for some of the upgrades, which is pretty phenomenal. A little bit less than half did. And for every one of these upgrades that we received anywhere from 25% to 75% more funds for each one of these upgrades. And that was a phenomenal thing for our project. The next thing that we were able to achieve is a lot of our visitors that came to our project came from communities that we're deeply involved in. And someone was joking a little bit earlier about the great Nye or something like that, or the everyone knows Nye or something. It's because I'm everywhere and I try to get involved as much as I can. And I think everyone should attempt to be really involved in the communities that you're attempting to service. The next thing that went pretty well is that our advertisements did return about 5 to 1. So for every dollar that we spent, we received about $5 in backing funds, which is pretty great. Unfortunately, because we didn't meet our goal, that's zero because, we didn't make our goal, and Kickstarter, it's an all or nothing sort of deal. And thanks to the help of one Miko Kasumi, if she is in the chat, and she can, holler out if she wants, we were able to secure some great coverage on Forbes and a number of indie-only blogs and sites. And while the Forbes is pretty neat, I kind of question how many people are, cruising Forbes for visual novels. And it's really not a lot, but it's still pretty cool because we were able to go back to some of our communities and say, hey, we were listed on Forbes, and people are like, oh, that's cool. But, it's, not super useful in itself. But it was great talking to Melissa on Forbes, and that was all pretty fun. So, and as far as converting goes, we had about 3,800 visitors to our site total, and 200 backers. So that puts us at about a 5.25 for conversions. If we take away the people that we got through pre-campaigning, it's more about 4%. So those are pretty good numbers. I'm going to go into that more extensively in a bit. And I know I'm going kind of fast because I don't really have a lot of time, but I will get into a lot of this in a moment so you guys see what I'm talking about. Lastly, our pre-campaign efforts, we were aiming for 25%, and we wound up securing 35% commitment prior to us launching. So, and if you guys are following along, these things all sound really good, but a number of things went wrong, and I think it's really important for us to stop and take a look at it and see what we can learn from it. And we had two different types of problems that I really want to cover today, and that's the two problems were that the problems that we expected and the problems that we just could not anticipate, we did not expect to happen. So in the first set here, while we managed to record down 35% commitment to our goal prior to launching, we only received about half of it in the first 48 hours. And this was kind of crushing because honestly, we thought overshooting to 35% was going to help us reach that 25% mark that everyone shoots for. But even after that, we weren't able to get the 25% we needed within the first 48 hours. And that hurt us a lot. And I'm going to go into why. So, obviously it's less money. And that's I think that's the goal of the Kickstarter is to raise money. But it also hurts because of something called social proof. And I'm not going to go super deep into social proof for the rest of the talk, but it's something that you do need to be aware of. It boils down to the more confidence that people have in your project, and the more confidence that other people see in your project, the more likely they are to back it. And on the flip side, the less confidence they have, the less numbers they see on your project, the less likely they are to back it. It's a fun little trick of Kickstarters. So and obviously the early parts of a Kickstarter usually shape the rest of the campaign. Sorry, someone just pinged me on Discord. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I threw my train of thought. It will shape the rest of the campaign though. And if you have a kind of a slow start, you're going to have a slow campaign overall. So, and our lesson here is that pre-campaigning is still a pretty good idea. You always want to keep doing it. But I think what we're going to take away from it going forward is that we're only going to expect about half of the campaign committals that we get prior to that to follow through. And that's not to say anything bad about the people who made the commitments. Things come up, people forget, and the communication can be kind of is someone on the mic here? Jessica, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So, and the other thing that we expected problems with, we had several sources of press that we wanted to get help from. Ultimately, we weren't really able to hit a lot of them. The press isn't really easy to contact, and there's content creators that are out there that are pretty hard to convince too that your project's worth covering. And there's a couple problems associated with this, and this is what we knew going into it. There's not really a lot of people covering VNs as a medium as a whole. And most of the ones that do cover very specific types of it, like a Tomes or a Rogues. And the other types of folks that typically cover VNs usually cover them as a genre of game and usually report on a large number of things like anime, movies, etc., or the other forms of entertainment. So it's not always easy to grab people with it, and we staggered there in a bit. We kind of knew we were going to. So, and this really hurts us because press is pretty much one of the best free ways to receive traffic to your project. And without traffic, your project will die. You simply will not get the eyeballs onto your page for them to make the decision to back it. Without this, you will absolutely fail, period. And we knew this going into this. The other thing that quality press and quality content creators can provide to you is filtering for traffic. Generally, whatever topics that these people cover are going to be the type of content that the people that they send to you consume. And the more closely that relates to your project, the better quality of the traffic that you're going to receive. And this is super important here. And if you guys have ever seen this, this is a sales or marketing funnel. The more number of quality traffic the higher number of quality traffic that they send, the more likely you are to get backers. So if their site hits about a million views, that might turn into 20,000 article views, might drill down into 1,000 links, and you might get about 50 backers out of it. These are really rough numbers, and the math is just made to be simple. But and our idea with this, though, is following this principle. If we could slip into the middle of this and generate artificial ad views, we could simulate this process and get ourselves further along on the way. And I do want to, and I went ahead and put the disclaimer here, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Ads are never a replacement for quality coverage. People who are authorities in their field or authorities on the subject matter lend a lot of trust and credibility to your project if they support you to their followers or audience verbally. So you definitely want to seek them preferentially. But if you're struggling for the numbers, ads are not a bad way to go about it. So. And the lesson here is that, I mean, really, we didn't learn much here either. We knew that this was going to be a challenge for us. But the one thing I really did take away from this personally is that we probably need to stop trying to seek out visual novel covers specifically for visual novels and focus more on large content and platform related channels like with art styles. If you're making an anime style visual novel, it would be a good idea to go after anime styled blogs or things like that. Or if you're releasing to a specific platform like PC, you might go to Rock, Paper, Shotgun, or the Switch. You might go to any number of the very large Switch covering sites. So, but ultimately, from these 2 points that we put together here, the strategies seemed to work, but what we did just wasn't enough. And I'm going to get into a bit of that here next. So, we were really hamstrung by some of the unexpected challenges that we ran along the way. Now we were using ads to supplement our viewership in order to get more people to come and back us. And we ran a Facebook ad that seemed to perform extremely well. But when it boiled down to it, and we looked through Google Analytics and we looked through the Kickstarter reports that you will get if you ever run a Kickstarter, you can see that following our project, there were 0 confirmed conversions from any of the Facebook ads that we put out. And they drove quite a bit of traffic to our project, which is pretty scary. We did testing for several months ahead of time, and these ads wound up giving us next to nothing. The good thing is that if you're involved in groups on Facebook, those still work pretty well. And I'm sure some of you are not surprised to see, hey, Facebook doesn't really work. The weird thing is that Facebook does work for some things. I run another business that uses Facebook for advertising, and I was pretty shocked to see this number come through our analytics. So this came as a kind of a huge surprise to me. But ultimately what this means is that, a third of our marketing budget, a third of our advertising budget went straight into the trash. The ads wound up driving our total visitor counts up, which drove our conversions down. And that made future calculations really challenging to really get a hold of. We're going to filter out the numbers for, a better understanding of what's going on. But because of this happening, we weren't able to more reflexively or more reactively take care of the problem that we were seeing with Facebook. So, and so what we can really do about this is, I mean, what we wound up doing is we just hard stopped in Facebook advertisements once we saw the problem. We did lose about a third of our marketing budget through it, but we immediately switched over to Twitter and Reddit. Incidentally, Twitter is actually a really great platform for advertisement. It's pretty expensive, but we found that it worked out extremely well. Most of our 5-to-1 ratio came from Twitter. Twitter itself was actually probably 7-to-1. Reddit was a bit lower and it dragged the average down, but Reddit's platform is a lot less expensive, which is nice, but it can be really hard to get to some of the subreddits. You can't target some of the subreddits of a certain size or smaller. Like you could hit the R visual novel subreddit just fine, but if you're going for like Ace Attorney or some of the smaller subreddits, you're going to find it's really challenging to get a hold of this because you cannot advertise directly to them through the ad platform, and you have to go directly onto the page and start advertising there. And that can be pretty challenging. So, and the other thing that we went wrong, and I told you earlier I was going to talk more about this, is that our conversion rate of 4% does leave some room for improvement. And it leads us to question, like, why people are getting turned away from the page. Plus, our visitor count, even with Facebook's visitor padding, a little bit less than 4,000 is pretty low. I think we could have done a lot better. And our inability to get through to some of those audience clusters in YouTube really, really hurt us kind of bad. So, and like I was mentioning earlier, a low conversion rate does bring up some questions, and why is a feedback opportunity? The things that we really need to ask ourselves, and what we're asking ourselves now is, why did you turn away? Why did you go for it? What can we do to make this a better experience or a better offer for you? And how we can overcome it. And the low visitor counts are pretty obvious. We missed some opportunities. What opportunities did we miss, and what can we go forward with it? So, so for the low conversion rates, the things that we can do, obviously we can find higher quality traffic. We can send better traffic to our better qualified traffic to our pages, which through advertising or through coverage through different press outlets, we could achieve that. So again, we're cycling back to our main problem. The other thing that we can do is we can just throw more volume at it, which effectively we'd be ignoring it. A conversion rate of 1% across 4,000 viewers is the same as 4% across 1,000 viewers. So we could ignore it, but it's kind of expensive to do that. We can also improve the offering, and you're probably asking why I left that one for last. Improving this, people keep pinging me on Discord, guys. Come on, give me a break. The thing that we can do here is we need to go out and discover some of the backer objections. So your mic is open. Can you please close your mic, JD? Thank you. Sorry, going forward. So the most common points of objections that we had with our project is that some of the visuals didn't mesh too well with our text offering. This gave a pretty inconsistent message for what the visual novel was about. So this is our heroine, Priscilla Vate. She's visualized as a child detective. In our text offering, we mentioned that this is no longer the case. It's been a decade since that's happened. And now she's working as a family photographer. So it's giving some mixed signals here, and we do understand that. So another point of problem that we were running into is that the visuals emphasize more of the side features than it did the meat of the product. And people weren't really quite sure what the project was for once we got it up there. And we do see that pretty well. If you look towards the end of our Kickstarter page, you'll notice that there's a lot of romance-oriented CGs that are towards the bottom of it, and kind of illustrate that our project is really romance focused when this is really a side feature, not a main feature. And the biggest point that we ran into overall is that the adult characters appeared pretty childish in their physical appearance. So a lot of people, when they saw it, they weren't really sure that the visual novel was for them. They thought it may have been for younger audiences, or may have been for audiences that just simply were not them. And that turned a lot of people away. And we do see this, and even in some of our more, adventure-packed or danger-packed ones, like here, Priscilla's trying to escape from this death trap that she's been put in. And our two leading supporting characters both appear childish, despite the fact that they're both well into their 20s and 30s. So, and a lot of people were turned off by this. So we're going to be making some changes in that aspect. So, and this leads me to the hardest lesson that, you know, we had to take away from this. We had to ask ourselves, you know, did we actually put forth our best effort? And it's a hard question to ask. And to be honest with you, I don't know. We tried our best, knowing what we have. We're constantly exposed to it, so it's a little hard to really tell how well or how not well we were doing with it. But we do take the feedback to heart. We always have. And this is where we currently stand in our project development. We've redone the sprites. We're reworking the backgrounds. This is our lead character and the 2 supporting characters that you just saw, and it's a pretty massive visual improvement. A lot of people have said we've got a work in progress on the logo and a work in progress on the background here, but this is where we currently stand, and I think we're going in a great direction here, and a lot of our backers have agreed that this is a great step forward for us. And I hope that in the next coming months, and hopefully in spring, we'll be releasing a new demo along with a new Kickstarter to help go at this again. And we're not giving up quite yet. I'm pretty determined to make a business out of making visual novels and helping other developers do so as well. So anyway, I know I went through that kind of fast, and hopefully I didn't take up too much time at the same time. But if you have any questions, I am here in Discord, and I am always available through Dev Talk. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know, or join Dev Talk and chat at me anytime.
Yeah, we still have like 3 minutes for a QA. Discord is being a bitch right now. It's just like having trouble accepting text. So
I've been getting pinged like the entire time. Like it's been ringing in my ear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, these people are putting text in there.
Okay, I'm back on Discord now. I'm looking at your messages. Please ignore all of my various chats on the side. There's about 1 million of them.
Yeah. All right. So while that's happening, I'm going to pass the viewership to Pentagon so that Pentagon can get set up.
Urtel, you asked about Instagram. Facebook was doing Instagram advertisements for us. Whenever you do Facebook advertisements, you will see that going to through to Instagram as well. They own that now. So I ask you not to, because honestly, we were towards the end of the campaign, and I don't think it would have made a lot of a difference. We were already pretty defeated at that point, and we kind of knew it. And no offense, I don't think anyone could have dug us out of the pit that we were in by that time. So any other questions here? What online communities do you feel are most receptive to news and announcements about EVNs? Honestly, and I know a lot of people feel mixed about it, but our VNs is warming up to EVNs a lot. I know that you particularly had a kind of a negative experience there when you talked about yours, because there was some lashback about the character customization. But that community is pretty good for it. Honestly, a lot of dev communities are receptive to it, but you're not really going to seek audience there. Because devs aren't really something you want to pitch to, but there are people who can give you some great feedback at least. Other than that, you definitely want to check out communities that are specific towards the type of content you're making. Like there's LGBT communities and atomic communities. I think specifically would probably fit your realm of interest more than I can think of. I'm specifically thinking about the Arcade Spirits project, but so I would definitely go that way and check that out. Going through, thank you for doing this. Must be hard. It's not really that hard, believe it or not. We failed, and I don't really feel that bad about it, because we learned so much from it. And I did not know what to expect going into this. I thought we were going to end up with 0 backers after 30 days. And we had so many people come out and support us. And honestly, by the end of it, I was in tears. I was just so happy about the response that we had. And our backers are great. They're great, phenomenal people. A lot of people actually here offered some tickets to them, and they came along, and I'm super proud to have them here. If someone goes to Reddit, Kickstarter, the page for the demo, plays demo, back to Kickstarter, it would depend on where they first landed on the site. The way the referrals work, Google Analytics will tell you where they came from, and a unique computer is a unique visitor. So the visitors are based off of like the IP or the host that they're coming from. So you'd be able to tell if someone hit like itch.io, went to play the game, then went to the Kickstarter, if they would show up as a direct probably because they went directly to the Kickstarter from there. But if they saw the Kickstarter first from Reddit, then went to go play the demo on itch.io, it would attribute that to Reddit first because they came from Reddit first. So you can learn more about that if you look up the Google Analytics stuff. There's a lot of information on that, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up any time. But I could talk for hours about all of this if you guys ever want to talk to me about organizing a Kickstarter and such. So anyway, I'm getting out of the way because Penta's next, and she's amazing. Go